Welcome to DABCC Radio,
where smart people listen.
Virtualization and Cloud Talk,
Featuring cutting-edge solutions from the hottest companies around the globe.
broadcasting from the DABCC offices in sunny Sarasota, Florida.
Surrounded by computers, books, and Legos.
A Microsoft MVP, Citrix Charter CTP, VMware vExpert.
And your host, Douglas Brown.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DABCC Radio. We've taken a little bit of time off, but we are back, and I have tons of great stuff lined up for you guys. So please stay tuned. And today we're going to kick off the fall of 2015, or ninth year, almost 10 years. Wow, crazy! With a brand new, just truly brilliant solution from the folks at Citrix called Workspace Cloud. I won't explain it. That's what we're going to do today. And the goal today is to explain this stuff to you, answer some of the common questions that I've been hearing in the community, and just what is this whole Workspace Cloud thing and why is this brilliant? That's what we're going to do. So with no further ado, here's my interview with Citrix about their awesome, brilliant, brand new Citrix Workspace Cloud. Okay, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know you guys are very busy people and probably busier than ever nowadays. So let's get straight to this. As always, my first question is, who are you? So I have two of you guys. Joe, let's take you first. So who are you, and what do you do at Citrix?
All right. Thanks, Doug, for having us. My name is Joe Vaccaro, and I'm responsible for product management at Citrix for Workspace Cloud. I'm located here in sunny California in Silicon Valley. I've been at Citrix now for almost 4 years. I came in here to really help to bring, I guess my job title was to help bring Zen App and Zen Desktop to the cloud, and been working on that since I got to Citrix.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And today we're going to talk about where it's to market. So you've done your job. Okay, Rick, who are you, and what do you do at Citrix? And you're an oldie too. So although you're not that old, you just oldest. Anyway, who are you, and what do you do at Citrix?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Rick Feijoo. I am a distinguished engineer at Citrix. I've been at Citrix for 17 years. So I've been the architect of various Zen App and Zen Desktop technologies, and I'm currently the principal architect for Citrix Workspace Cloud, the platform. And Joe and I have been working together probably for those 4 years in getting the products ready to go to the cloud.
That's awesome. So, did you get a gold watch for after 17 years or something? When did you get the gold watch?
You never get a gold watch. I got a tent for my 15th anniversary that I use every once in a while.
On the 20th anniversary, you get one of Mark T's famous vests.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
I'll let you know if I get one of those. Maybe I'll sell it on eBay.
That would they would go for big dollars. The man has style, The man
That's
has
right.
style. Okie dokie. So let's dive into this. So today we're going to talk about Workspace Cloud. So can you give us sort of the 10th, for people that are just new to this, can you give us the 10,000-foot overview?
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Workspace Cloud. If you think about it, Workspace Cloud is more than just a product. Workspace Cloud is really a new way to be able to consume Citrix technologies and consume Citrix value in an easier to adopt manner. And it's more than just a product in that it is a platform that allows you to be able to consume a number of different workspace services delivered to you as a cloud service, as well as a new way to consume the technology in a subscription manner. And we think about Workspace Cloud as not just delivering on a single service, but a set of services that all can be used together from the cloud to be able to construct your workspace.
So this is completely different than, cloud, subscription. You just threw a bunch of words out there that are, completely foreign to an old Citrix guy. And so for old school implementations, what does this mean? I mean, can you talk about the differences between, what we know about implementing Citrix and how this changes things for us.
Yeah, if you look at the key market of, say, for instance, the application and desktop service, in a traditional application and desktop virtualization deployment, say using XenApp or XenDesktop, there's a number of key components that are required that kind of make up the control infrastructure, or what we'll refer to a lot of times as the control plane. There's a delivery controller, or what's known as the broker. And the broker has a database, a SQL database. You have things like Storefront that helps you to provide a way to be able to enumerate these different applications to an end user. You have a Netscaler to help you provide remote access. You have different management consoles. And then ultimately, you set up all of those different things, and so you can be able to provide somebody access to an application or desktop, which run on what we call the XenApp server, or a lot of times what we refer to as the VDA, the virtual delivery agent. And what we've done, and what's really unique about this in terms of from an old way of approaching application and desktop virtualization, is we've taken all those components within the control plane and now provide that to you as a service within the app and desktop service inside of Workspace Cloud. But what's unique about this approach, in that Citrix isn't the first person to deliver an app and desktop service. Our service providers alone have been doing that for a number of years. But what's different about this is that the workload themselves, the XenApp servers in that traditional architecture, still reside within your control, which means that you can be able to have that XenApp server, your workload, run in any number of public clouds or your on-premises infrastructure, and give you that full ability to have the choice you need, but also then that control that you need in order to meet your different workspace needs.
I've heard some confusion around this, that Citrix delivers the apps and desktops, but you guys aren't actually delivering the apps and desktops. You're providing that infrastructure component, or the management infrastructure component. You're not a hosting provider.
Exactly right. Workspace Cloud is really about the management service, not where the workload runs. And that was really a design from the very beginning to ensure that, one, this is really what customers want. They want the simplicity of a cloud service, but then the flexibility to retain that control and be able to place the workloads wherever they want them. As well as this is something that makes Workspace Cloud really partner-friendly, and that partners that are really critical to an application and desktop success allow partners the flexibility to then build on top of Workspace Cloud to be able to then simplify their own implementation, so that partners themselves can be able to spend more of their resources on improving the workspace instead of just setting it up, configuring the workspace, and making sure it continues to be highly available.
Okay, just to add a point to that is, as we spoke to customers, what's really important to them is the performance of the application, and therefore being able to run the application as close to the data for that application as they can is what they were looking for, rather than being told where they had to run their applications and then figuring out how to make it performant to where the data actually is. So giving customers the choice of where to run their applications so that they get the best performance is what really sets the Workspace Cloud and the apps and desktop service apart.
Great point. So basically with Workspace Cloud, we have a cloud piece, the Workspace Cloud piece, which you guys host, correct? And then we have the infrastructure, the XenApp servers, XenDesktop, what have you, that sit on-prem. Is that how it's laid out?
Right. So they can sit on premises, or they can sit in a cloud of the the customer or partner's choice. Absolutely.
Perfect. It doesn't matter where it sits. But the customer controls those. When would you use something like Workspace Cloud versus just doing it the traditional way? What's the advantages beyond? And then at the same time, if I'm an existing customer, would there be value for me to layer Workspace Cloud on top of my existing infrastructure?
So let me break that down a little bit about what is Workspace Cloud, and then we'll come back to the use cases. Workspace Cloud, as we talked about and Rick mentioned, is really a platform, and there's a number of key services that can be used. One of which is the app and desktop service, which you can use to be able to deliver that virtual application or virtual desktop. And people have been using the app and desktop service now for almost a year that have been partnering with us, both partners and customers. And many times what they're using, say, the app and desktop for is the ability to really accelerate that time to value and be able to, within their own IT organizations, spend more of their IT resources on being able to actually improve the experience of their application and desktop delivery, or be able to add new types of services or new types of applications to their environments. Is if you think about the lifecycle of an application such as, say, Zen App and Zen Desktop, there's the initial assessment and understanding how you want to deploy it, what is the infrastructure required. Then you have the actual configuration. But then what's important is that once that, say, application such as Zen App is deployed, you have to make sure that it's highly available. You have to be able to patch it and upgrade it when new versions come out. What the app and desktop service provides is that full ability and all the features and functionality that you'd find in a product such as Zen App and Zen Desktop, but now provided to you as a service. So you have the ability to really just consume the app and desktop service and allow Citrix to make sure that it's always available, that it's highly performant, and that it's always up to date, giving you the ability to leverage those latest features on a continuous basis.
What kind of services can I run on Workspace Cloud?
So the app and desktop services is definitely one of the marquee services that are available. But as we talked about, the concept of a workspace really spans beyond just an application and a desktop. People today, when they're designing a notion of a workspace, are looking at adding in things like mobility management, the delivery of mobile applications and mobile device policies as people are moving outside of the office and need access to enterprise resources, as well as secure documents, the ability to access your user data as a native experience as you move around, as well as in lifecycle management and being able to actually looking at different applications within your IT deployment and being able to use a set of predefined blueprints to help you to automate the deployment of things such as your Netscaler installation and configuration, or even a traditional Zen app environment that you want to be able to actually deploy a complete new Zen app environment, leveraging a set of predefined blueprints. And these are just four of the initial services that are available from Workspace Cloud, and we'll be adding many, many more over the coming time.
So with Workspace Cloud, does it make it easier to set those things up in the sense of, well, obviously easier, but like in knowledge? I mean, are you guys doing all the best practices when it's set up, or am I still building each of my individual servers? Make sense?
Yeah, what if you think about what we've done is we've really taken all those best practices that we built up over the number of years for those core products, so say Zen App and Zen Desktop and Zen Mobile and ShareFile and others, and now provided that to you as a service that you can really consume, where you can spend and where you still have the ability to provide your own intellectual property as well as in your own personalization. It's then in the infrastructure that hosts your workloads themselves, the applications, the desktops, as well as in how you design your identity access and your network access. And so there's still work to be done and still ways for you to be able to kind of make the workspace services fit into your own specific needs.
Sure. Makes sense. What kind of private and public clouds can I use?
So we've been working with a number of our different partners, such as Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, IBM SoftLayer, and other service providers that are providing infrastructure capabilities. And one of the great things about the app and desktop service being powered by Zen App and Zen Desktop is that Citrix has always had this notion of an inniness, a true inniness, in the sense that we believe that ini is more than just providing a hybrid environment within infrastructure technologies that we provide. Ini really means that provide true choice to allow you to adopt the right infrastructure technology that meets your specific needs. So as we've talked about, any public cloud, as well as any hypervisor, as well as working with partners that provide, say, hyperconverged infrastructure, such as Nutanix, can be used as a resource location technology to host your workloads.
Makes total sense. So you had mentioned this has been out almost, or some people have been using this close to a year now. So can you talk about the ideal early adopter? What have people been using it so far? Give us some of the success stories.
Yeah, we've had a number of partners and customers that have been on Workspace Cloud, leveraging the application and desktop service as well as the lifecycle management service now for almost a year. A lot of the early customers came to us to be able to partake in the early trials because they were looking at how they could be able to, say, address needs for application or desktop delivery in locations where they maybe don't have the right IT staff. Or they're having a global deployment and they wanted to be able to centralize all these in a single place to manage without having to replicate the management infrastructure in each independent location. And the app and desktop service gives you that ability to be able to flex out, to be able to increase your capacity in new locations quickly, as well as to bring all that management infrastructure into a single place available from the app and desktop service. But that gives you that kind of global ability to have the app and desktops delivered from a kind of single global service.
You got it. Hey, Rick, Workspace Cloud is more than just Zen app, though, right?
That's right. Joe talked about the different services that we're delivering through Workspace Cloud. And as we talked about, Workspace Cloud is a platform. So the first thing that we started out building was a platform to be able to enable our product teams to be able to take their enterprise products and be able to deliver them as cloud services, but as well as to deliver any new services that we're thinking about and make them cloud ready. So CWC itself, or Citrix Workspace Cloud, sometimes people hear that and they think of the apps and desktop service right away, but it really is a platform of services. As Joe mentioned, the mobility management service, which is built on our Zen mobile technology, the apps and desktop service that's built on our Zen app and Zen desktop technology. But there's also secure documents, which is our share file technology, and lifecycle management, which is a service that allows you to create blueprints, or you could think of blueprints as scripts to be able to do all kinds of things, including applications, but also our traditional products. And CWC brings them all together with a unified administrator experience, a unified buying experience, a unified subscriber experience, where as a customer of Workspace Cloud, you can begin with one service and build out to all the services, or choose to stay with just one individual service.
So let's talk about those other services, Zen Mobile and ShareFile. Let's take Zen Mobile first.
So the mobility management service is really a ability to deliver mobile applications and mobile device policies from a single cloud service. And really, if you look at kind of what the enterprise mobility management is solving for, is the ability to then allow you to securely give your users the ability to access the mobile resources while they're on the move. You might want to be able to think about this notion of a workspace and what do people need to be productive at that point in time. Many times that means that I don't actually want to get to a Windows application. I want to be able to access and leverage a native mobile application from my mobile device, such as my iPhone. And the mobility service gives me that ability to then push down native mobile applications to a user's device, as well as then secure that device through a set of mobile device policies. And this is really kind of goes into this concept of that complete workspace that we've talked about, and that every IT organization is really thinks about their needs for their workspace differently. And it's not only something that every IT organization thinks about. The IT organizations break that down based upon different personas within their own company. For instance, your sales force that are out, out in the public, meeting with their customers, always on the move, they're very rarely going to be able to, say, pull open their laptop and access a virtual desktop. They're going to be powering their day using that mobile device. So they need access to, say, your enterprise applications, such as getting access to Salesforce, getting access to their email, getting access to their calendar, and done in a secure manner. The mobility service through Workspace Cloud, powered by Zen Mobile, gives that IT organization the ability to then construct a workspace based upon that persona's needs. As you look at then, say, your data, your share file, again, the ability to then construct the different data needs through Workspace Cloud, and to be able to then add those different data resources, say 1 gig of share file data or 10 gigs of share file data, or I want this data that these people accessed to be located within my premises, to be able to add all these things into a workspace and to be able to then assign that workspace to the different personas within your company.
Makes total sense. So here's a good question. I'm a customer and I'm thinking about using a solution like XenApp, and I need EMM and data management and things like this, right? So if I was doing that today, should I go with a solution like Workspace Cloud, or should I do it the traditional way? What are the questions I need answered, I need to ask myself in order to make that decision?
So you think about a kind of the spectrum of delivery, in that on one side of the spectrum is kind of the DIY model, where you can be able to look at the best practices, download all the bits yourself, configure them all yourself, and do everything kind of in a fully customized manner. The other end of the spectrum is really a done for you, where you could actually consume a lot of these say business outcomes as a service from a service provider. And Citrix has now, I think, over 2,600 service providers that can be able to provide you a lot of these capabilities for you. Where Workspace Cloud provides value to IT is really sitting in that middle ground that says, if you want to be able to deliver upon that business outcome, you can either leverage, say, the lifecycle management service that says, I want the XenApp environment still deployed, but I want it to be deployed and configured in an easier manner. I can leverage a validated blueprint out of the lifecycle management catalog that actually stand up a complete XenApp or XenDesktop or XenMobile environment for you in the resource location of your choice. If you want to go one step further along that spectrum, though, you can say, I don't have, say, the expertise to be able to manage continually the XenApp or XenDesktop or XenMobile environment. You know what I want? I want Citrix to provide that to me as a cloud service. And that's where the app and desktop service or the mobility service or that secure document service really come in. And the great thing about Workspace Cloud is that each of these different services can be leveraged together. In many times what we've talked to customers is that their needs span a spectrum of those different deployment. They have, say, a certain part of their business where they need to have XenApp be fully installed locally and be able to be managed in that offline manner. And leveraging, say, lifecycle management blueprints to be able to meet that specific need is great. And then another part of the business where, say, they have less IT expertise in Citrix, they can be able to leverage that app and desktop service and focus more of their attention on actually provisioning their workloads in the infrastructure that's hosting it, and less on the actual Citrix control plane components.
Makes sense. But as I listen to that answer, I think from the channel partner in me, where do they add the value then? Because it sounds like, you said Citrix provides that for me, where in the past the channel partner provided that layer of expertise, right? So how do you respond to that?
Yeah, our channel partners really make up the heart of Citrix, right? And Citrix has always prided itself on being a channel-first company. And Workspace Cloud is no different. We've been working with channel partners across the spectrum from the very beginning. And I look at really what is the value that a channel partner provides within a Citrix deployment. And the value that they provide is really helping to make the workspace business ready, meaning that it is something that is not only just the ability to just deliver the application, but to deliver that application that's integrated into their customers' IT environment within their own identity system, making it business ready by ensuring that it's on the right infrastructure and provisioned in a way that's going to give the best experience, configuring it within the other aspects of, say, their network and other policies. And all those things together are really, really the high value areas within a partner where they themselves want to focus, because this is what's going to provide them the ability to continue to receive business from those types of customers.
That's such a good answer. I've always said the channel partner that goes in there and just says, hey, you know what? I know how to install this really well. that's not a very good channel partner. It's about the entire services package, right? The consultant, the difference between a consultant and an engineer, right? A consultant goes in there and builds a business. A engineer goes in there and fixes something or installs something and then leaves. And it's a completely different business, different world there. So that was a great answer.
Yeah, we want to really empower these types of partners to be able to kind of transform their own business from the kind of transactional, low-value work to being able to provide value around high-value, continuous engagement, as you mentioned, Doug, that notion of being that consultant, be able to help them to grow, to continuously engage, to continuously monitor, and then continuously expand the concept of a workspace within their customers.
That's great, and that leads me perfectly into my next question. You've talked a few times, or a bunch, about the workspaces, and a couple times you mentioned this complete workspaces. What is a complete workspace? Isn't my workspace complete? I know I have enough icons on it.
I think that's great, because if you think about, to everybody, your notion of a workspace is different. It's a very personal a personal decision, right? Yep. What I need to be productive is different than what Rick needs to be productive, which is different, Doug, from what you need. And it's interesting is that as you transition through the day and access from different devices, whether it's your laptop or your iPhone or a tablet or a browser, your definition of the workspace is also dynamic. And so what we've done is within Workspace Cloud is really trying to bring this concept of a workspace to life, giving you the ability to then add in different resources into a workspace and then assign them to people. So what we want is that the vision for a workspace is to be able to have all the different resources necessary for that group of people or that persona to be productive. And then based upon receiver, right, which powers the ability for how you access these resources, and then allow the receiver to be seamless across every different types of device, and have it to be dynamic to show you only the things that you need based on the device that you're accessing. That's that really notion of a complete workspace.
Also talked a bit about a resource locations, or mentioned them. So what is the idea of a resource location?
A resource location is actually just a group of, let's call them resources, for lack of a better word, that you need to make available to Workspace Cloud for us to be able to deliver the service. So a resource location contains all of the pieces that are owned by the customer, and you're giving access to the cloud to be able to deliver a particular service. So let's take, for example, the apps and desktop service. The first thing that you're going to need for us to be able to deliver the apps and desktop service is to give us access to your Active Directory. Because in Workspace Cloud, the identity of your end users, you're in complete control of. We don't control it. It's your Active Directory. And you have to give us access to your Active Directory so that we can read the users, we can authenticate the users, we can enumerate them so that you can add them to a workspace. So that's an idea of something that's sitting inside a resource location. Another thing is if you're going to be using, let's say in the apps and desktop service, you're going to create your virtual desktops agents that we talked about. If you're going to create them on a local hypervisor, a hypervisor would be in a resource location, and you would give us access to that hypervisor, and we would talk to it. And the way we talk to all these resources that are in a resource location is through something we call the Cloud Connector. And the Cloud Connector, we'll probably get into that a little bit later and in technical detail, but it really is the communication hub from the Workspace Cloud into to give access to talk to all the different resource locations. So as before, Joe was talking about how some of these services work, where we talked about the control plane and we talked about VDAs and et cetera. The resource location is where these computing resources sit, like the VDAs. And we talked earlier about how do partners add value. When you start thinking about the applications that are running, the databases that they talk to, the identity, all of that lives in the resource location. And that's where the partner adds a lot of the value, is getting that resource location up and running, because all of that is still under the control of the customer and the partner. So if you think about the breakdown that we talked about of the control plane in the cloud and then the resources under the customer control, those resources, that's a resource location.
Makes sense. One of the things you said that I definitely pulled out, and I imagine other people did too, was, quote, give Citrix access to my AD. So that's always, one of those, what, excuse me, hold on. What do you mean by that? So can you talk a bit about the security you guys put in place around this, blah, 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 blah?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us to be able to run the control plane in the cloud and then to be able to give workspaces to your subscribers or to your users, we need to understand who they are. So, as Joe was describing, is I want to create a complete workspace that had mobility applications in it, had some apps and desktops, and it had data. Let's say I wanted to assign that to my accounting group because I had certain applications, mobile apps that they use, certain policies. I want to be able to assign that to my accounting group. Well, I don't want to have to go and define my accounting group in Workspace Cloud and have it be different than the accounting group that I'm used to using in my day-to-day work. And so as we spoke to customers, they really wanted to use their own identity. They wanted to use their own grouping concepts, exactly what they're used to today. So to do that, we support your own corporate Active Directory as an identity source for your users. And to communicate with that, we have the connector as we spoke about. And everything that the connector does in its day-to-day use is all read-only. And so that connector only has to have enough privileges to be able to go and read, for example, the groups and users in your Active Directory, to be able to then assign them to the workspaces. So that's, as far as security's perspective, that's what we need to be able to assign workspaces. The other thing I'd like to people to understand is that the connector itself is purpose-built, meaning it's not a blind proxy from the cloud to your any of your resources. Inside of the connector, we have what we call providers, and those providers have set functionality that they do. For example, read an Active Directory group. So if the cloud wants to read an Active Directory group, it tells the connector to read the group. It doesn't just proxy the call from the cloud. So the connector has very set functionality that it needs to do, and you will always know what that connector is doing. So part of our documentation that's available in our secure deployment guide, we tell you exactly the kind of operations that connector does, as well as tell you the machines that it's talking to so that you can secure that communication. So that's the first level of security.
Where are the servers located?
Yeah, so when you think about Workspace Cloud, and if you went to workspace.cloud.com and you were accessing our cloud service, people always ask us, well, where's the control plane, what it is, and the answer really is that Citrix is in a position where we're able to leverage the best of breed technologies from a number of different cloud services, number of different public clouds that are used to really build Workspace Cloud. We aren't necessarily beholden to our own cloud, and that gives us the benefit of being able to leverage those best technology from a number of different areas to be able to deliver services as close to where users are. And that really is, I think, one of the differentiating points of Workspace Cloud.
Okay, sound good. So, okay, so back to the architecture question. So, Rick?
So if I was to describe it again, at the very high level, the first thing to understand is the platform itself. And the platform delivers all kinds of services to the individual product services. So things like we talked about the common administrator experience. So being able to define an administrator in one place and have that administrator be able to be used in all the different services without forcing our customers to have to create a user over and over again. Being able to delegate the administration capabilities of those administrators. So having a common platform of authentication for our administrators. The platform also provides a common place for subscribers to be defined. So once you've hooked up the connector that we talked about to your Active Directory, all of the individual services that are in the Workspace Cloud can now leverage that technology. So you don't have to define that over and over again on the individual services. So, the same thing the platform does in terms of being able to buy services. So you're able to buy all the different services in one experience, not having to understand how to purchase the individual services differently. And if I buy one service and then I buy another, do I have to, again, understand who I am as a customer, etc.? That's all provided by the platform. So the first thing to understand about CWC is that platform and the services. The next piece is the product services that then are delivered on top of the platform. So those are the apps and desktop service, the mobility management service, lifecycle management, ShareFile. Those services that we've been talking about that you use to build this concept of a workspace are actually product services that are delivered by individual teams within Citrix that are built all on top of the platform. And what the platform allows us to do is it allows us to bring those services to market very quickly from all the different product teams throughout Citrix, and then be able to give a unified experience like we talked about from an administrator, subscriber, buying experience, give a unified experience to our customers. So the next piece to then understand from the architecture is what we talked about is the resource location, the connector. So the connector itself is a piece of software that you easily install, and the install is basically a bootstrapper that you install. You authenticate yourself so that Workspace Cloud knows who you are as a customer. And then it starts to download all of the pieces that are necessary and keeps those up to date. We're in control of that machine, so we ask you to give us control of the machine so that we can keep those pieces up to date, secure, any patches, we take care of that. And really all you needed to do was enter your credentials and you're good to go. From then on, the connector takes care of all that stuff. So those are the big pieces of the architecture that we need to understand. And then we can go in depth into either one of those, any one of those pieces if you want to.
I definitely want to. Let's talk about the connector, though.
Okay.
You've mentioned this a few times, and you even gave us a little bit of a rundown on it. Is there anything you left out? Or give us everything you want to tell us about this connector.
So the connector really is, again, it's for lack of a better word, it's the umbilical cord between the Workspace Cloud and our customers. We like you to install it, at least 2 of them, for high availability. So we use them both for high availability and for scaling out our communications. The communications that we do there, again, are very small. They're really control plane communications. So, for example, in the apps and desktop service, when you connect to your VDA, that traffic goes directly between your client and your VDA. The connector's not involved. So the connector really is just the proxy communication from us to the cloud. It is stateless, meaning that if it crashes, another connector will take over without any kind of loss of connectivity. The connector itself is installed on an internal network with access to the resources that it needs to communicate with. So, for example, it's on an internal network that has access to Active Directory. If you're using it to talk to hypervisors, it has to have network connectivity to those hypervisors. And the way it works is that it reaches out to the cloud to ask for what are the commands that you need me to do. So there is no reaching in. You don't have to put it in the DMZ, or you don't have to open any kind of external ports to be able to communicate with it. It uses port 443 out, communicates with SSL to Workspace Cloud, and all the commands are sent to it. So I think that's about it for the connector.
Okay, Rick, that sounds great. So, can you talk more about the desktop services piece itself, the architecture of the workspace itself? Can you do that?
Sure. So, Workspace is what we use to bring all the different product services together. And the way it works is you actually go into each product service and define those objects that can be assigned to a particular end user or subscriber. So in the apps and desktop service, you can assign apps and desktops. You go and create a delivery group for those listening that are used to the traditional Zen app and Zen desktop. You create a delivery group, and inside the delivery group, you can have various apps, desktops, combinations of apps and desktops. You can then go to the mobility management and create mobile applications, policies, etc. You can go to the share file service and create a plan or size of data that you want to give to a particular subscriber. And all of those objects are then enumerated by the platform and shown as objects that can be included into the workspace. And so those objects can be put in whatever kind of combination that you want to, as an administrator, give to your subscribers. So the way it works is you go and create a workspace, and you're shown all the different delivery groups from the apps and desktops. So you can choose an accounting application, you can choose a email application. You can go to the mobile apps and desktop service, and you'll see in your workspace configuration a mobile app that accounting person needs, as well as the amount of data that you want to give them from the secure document service. You put those all together, and then you create an accounting workspace. So what happens in the background is that we have communicated with the individual services, and we now know how to talk to those services to let them know when these objects are assigned to a user. So when you subscribe the workspace, the first thing that we do is we'll go through the connector that we talked about. We'll talk to Active Directory and show you a list of your groups and users that you might be interested in subscribing. You choose them, and you create the workspace. You subscribe the workspace, or what we call publishing the workspace. At that point, architecturally what happens is that the platform goes and talks to each individual service and lets them know that this particular object, this delivery group, has been assigned to that user, and the service does everything that it needs to do to make sure that the users have access. So that's how we can then add new services to the fold very quickly and be able to create these workspaces across all the different product services.
Makes sense. Storefront. So a user connects to Storefront. Can you talk a bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. So there's actually two different ways that we can support Storefront in the apps and desktop service, and that is that you have your own storefront or you want to use the cloud storefront. So for those customers who have Storefront set up and they're working very happily, and for example, they're using Workspace Cloud to deliver a new set of applications, maybe for a new set of workers, but they have some applications on premises from their traditional Zen app and Zen desktop deployments, and they want to combine them with applications that are being delivered through Workspace Cloud. You can use your traditional storefront and point it to Workspace Cloud through the connector, and the Workspace Cloud apps and desktop will show up as a new site inside a storefront. And so those, without having to change how your users work today, they log into their traditional storefront and they see a combination of applications that are being delivered from traditional Zen apps and desktop and being delivered from Workspace Cloud enabled apps and desktops. And as far as they're concerned, they're going to click on them and they're going to launch and work exactly the same. They're not going to know which ones are being delivered from where. And so that allows you as a customer to not have to retrain them, etc. If the other solution is if you want Workspace Cloud to deliver the storefront for you. And in that case, you're given a URL in the cloud where your users point to, and they log in with their Active Directory credentials, and we authenticate them to your Active Directory. Now, when that happens, they now are able to launch their applications from the cloud from that storefront where you, as a customer, as an administrator, didn't have to worry about managing storefront at all. You're leaving that to Citrix. So in that case, you have two different ways to figure out what is best for you as a customer.
And I think, to add on that, I think one point that Rick mentioned that I want to kind of reemphasize is that the ability to do that storefront aggregation of multiple different delivery sites, both your traditional environment and now, say, the app and desktop service under a single storefront, gives customers a great way to be able to then now add new services such as the app and desktop service to complement an existing deployment by not having to change anything from your end user point of view. They still go to the same receiver, they still go to the same address, but now there'll be new applications and desktops available that'll then, when they click on them, will actually be coming and powered by the app and desktop service. And the second point that I wanted to kind of add to Rick's comment is that once the user has been authorized by Storefront to launch an application, all the traffic then goes directly from the end user's device to the actual workspace resource, or the VDA. None of the traffic is actually then hairpinned or routed back through the Workspace Cloud services, which provides both a more highly performant approach, as well as giving you a highly secure approach, ensuring that the data plane traffic is always going within your control.
Makes sense. Netscaler, does it have a play there? You mentioned Netscaler earlier. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, go for it, Rick.
Yeah, absolutely. So Netscaler app is used whenever you need to have remote access. And so Netscaler is, right now in the apps and desktop service, is part of the resource location. So whether you have a storefront hosted in the cloud or your traditional storefront hosted on premises, the Netscaler runs in the resource location, and that's really what Joe was talking about there, where the connection goes straight from the client through the Netscaler next to the VDA, wherever that may be, whether it's on premises or in the cloud, in a partner cloud. Netscaler is involved in anytime you need remote access.
Makes sense. What about all the other benefits you get from XenApp today? 3D support, 3D, things like that. We don't lose any of that, right?
Yeah, I think by building the app and desktop service on top of the core of XenApp and XenDesktop, you have the same capabilities around 3D application support. And what this allows you to do is to, again, choose the right infrastructure based upon the specific application needs. Meaning, if you're looking to deliver a set of 3D applications and you want to leverage a GPU-enabled infrastructure, whether that's on your own premises or in, say, a public cloud such as Amazon or SoftLayer that supports GPU-enabled virtual machines, have the ability to do that. But then to be able to then complement that with, say, more economic applications such as your traditional Microsoft Office, where you might want to run those in more low-cost infrastructure, say as Azure or some other type of data center facility.
You guys also have this service called the Browser App Service. This is really cool. Do you have any plans for other really amazing services like this one too?
Yeah, so we had the general availability of Workspace Cloud on August 20th, and then we followed right after that with the announcement of our Workspace Cloud Labs area. And the Labs area provides us an ability to really experiment with new types of services that can be able to complement the different workspace needs. And one of the first that was added to that Labs area is the Browser App Service. And I'll let Rick talk a little bit about the Browser App Service, and we'll come back around and talk about some of the other types of services that we will be adding to Workspace Cloud.
So one of the most popular applications to use on XenApp is a browser, because it allows you to have a very controlled browser environment for web applications. So I know a lot of you have struggled with deploying a particular web application, and then there's a browser update or some sort of Java update or something that breaks your application and now it no longer works. So the Browser App Service is about having a controlled browser to be able to run a particular URL and publish that URL very easily, say these are the requirements for it, And now it shows up in receiver as a link that could be launched to a controlled environment to be able to run whatever URL or application it is that you need to run. Now, right now in Tech Preview, we have certain configurations where the browser is running in a Citrix data center. But in the future, we have thoughts of being able to run internal websites, external websites, to be able to take it to the next level. So as Joe said, it's in our lab space where we're experimenting with it, getting feedback from our customers, and then figuring out what do we need to do next to make it viable.
And outside of just the browser service, back at Synergy this year, we talked about some of the other kind of core services that'll make up Workspace Cloud over time, and not only looking across the portfolio of Citrix products to add different networking services, workflow automation, different data fabric, and say real-time support. But then, as Rick talked about the architecture of the platform, it's really built as a way to be able to then add new services quickly. And really, as the definition of a workspace evolves, we'll also be looking to add additional types of services. One of the most interesting ones that I'm really excited about is how we can actually then bring in native SaaS applications to Workspace Cloud to be able to complement the notion of a workspace. Not only from SaaS applications that Citrix provides, such as collaboration ones, the likes of GoToMeeting and else, but then also third-party applications such as, say, Office 365 and others.
That's great. I love this idea around a browser app service. For some reason, I actually remember, maybe I'm dreaming or maybe something we always wanted, but Rick, back in the day, you guys actually thinking about having something like this, and maybe there was even a project that never saw the light of day. But am I just dreaming, or?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The browser app service is an idea that's been around for a long time and really never saw the light of day as a traditional enterprise product. And I think it shows the value of what Workspace Cloud brings to Citrix, because we can quickly try these experiments in labs and see if our customers like it, get quick feedback, understand if there's a business case behind it, and bring it to market much faster than a traditional product where you have to invest a lot, get it out there, and then just really find out after the fact whether people are going to buy it or not. So it really shows the value of Workspace Cloud, what it's doing for us internally at Citrix, as well as being able to bring these out to our customers and get their feedback right away.
I think that's the whole thing is just darn right cool, right? But the browser app service, that is neat. That is a really, like you said, it just shows the power of what you guys are building. So that's wonderful stuff. I look forward to more little services like that. So that's great stuff, guys. Let's turn our attention to something I know very little about, and that is licensing. So, I've always said I'm an engineer. I don't know anything about licensing. I don't want to know anything about licensing, but today I want to know about licensing. So, who is the owner of the license? Where are the licenses? Are there Microsoft licenses required? Can you talk about licensing in a nutshell, if that's possible?
Yes. All the subscriptions from within Workspace Cloud for, say, the ability to access virtual desktops or virtual apps and desktops, all the licensing that you need to, say, use the service, that's all provided within the subscription, and that includes then all of the control plane costs. And if you think about a Citrix traditional environment, such as, say, a XenApp environment today, you have a number of different virtual machines that are using, say, Windows Server virtual machines to power your delivery controllers. You have a SQL database that's needed to be able to provide your entitlements and policy locations, as well as then, say, virtual machines for your storefront. And those all need to be then replicated to be highly available. So what we've done is to really bring all of that cost, not only for the user access of their applications and desktops, but then all of the control plane costs for the databases, the Windows servers, all into that single per user per year subscription. Then the only thing that the customer needs to provide is the infrastructure, and then the Windows licenses to really host the applications and desktops, either using, say, Windows client or Windows Server for your published applications or your local VDI desktops.
Not only complexity, it could actually cut costs too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very cool. If someone wants to learn more, what do they need to do? I mean, what is the first step for someone to get involved in this?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways you can get started that I'd recommend. First, if you'd like to learn more, you can just go to citrix.com/workspace cloud and find a ton of great information, links to different blog articles, technical documentation, as well as a great series of videos that are available on YouTube to see kind of firsthand how to be able to set up and use the services. But if you want to just jump right in, you could just go to workspace.cloud.com, which is really where you'll find Workspace Cloud, and create your free account. And within that account, we've actually created what we call our test drive, which gives you the ability to begin using a workspace and assign that workspace or publish it to 5 people to see really what's inside of a workspace and the great performance when actually accessing it. Once you've done that, you can begin to use a number of the key services that are available right away, including the lifecycle management by just registering the browser app service. And if you want to then begin using services such as the apps and desktops, just simply register for a trial, and then we'll begin working with you to be able to give you access.
Thank you again for taking the time to be with us today. Everyone just head on over to Workspace Cloud and check this stuff out. So, guys, again, thank you so much for doing this with me and all that jazz. So I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Okay. So that concludes. Okay, that's a wrap, guys. Thank you again for taking the time. It's these guys are busy people. You know, they're about to release, or they have released a product. Now they're out talking to guys like me. So I truly appreciate them making the time to be on the show. I hope you guys also, the listeners out there, enjoyed the show. I'd love to have these guys back on. So if you guys listening have any questions, send me a message on Twitter. I'm Douglas A. Brown, so DouglasABrown. Just message me on Twitter, and I'll get these guys back on, and we'll answer your questions, along with dive more deep into the technology itself. What else do I say? Okay, on that note, please head on over to dabcc.com for the latest and greatest virtualization news and support resources. If you're not familiar, I have a new site out, or a new project I've been working on. It's called videos.dabcc.com, and our goal is to organize and share with you guys and surface everything that's going on within this virtualization cloud community in video form. Right? So all the different videos that are being produced daily, which is, 50, 60, 70 videos a day from a couple hundred different vendors out there, the cream of the crop guys, right? And we surface these things, organize them. You got to check out the site, videos.dabcc.com. I highly recommend sign up for the Daily Digest, and you don't have to do a thing. Every single day we send you just a really clean and simple email that just lists the podcast, the videos that were released that day. So every day at noon Eastern time is when they go out, and you can just look and say, oh, here's a video, I'll watch this, or there's nothing that's today, I delete the email. So in one, it takes about a minute, 2 minutes. I think this is cool. It takes about 2 minutes, and you know everything that went on that day within the video world. So if you like something, hey, watch it. Schedule it for later, what have you. So on that note, guys, thank you so much for listening. Please, if you enjoy the show, tell a friend, and tell them to subscribe, right? Follow us. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm rambling. Thank you so much again for listening to DABCC Radio.
Can you say DABCC?
DABC.
Say it again, DABCC.
DABC.
Can you say it again, DABCC?
DABBC.
How about DABCC?
DABBC.
DABCC.
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 DABCC.